we need to understand that the very limited people, the small amount of people, the Franks, the Michelles, the Daves, the Josh and Marys, the Mikeys, the people who took the information and are making changes.
Mm-hmm.
That's our 30 seconds that we need to focus on. Because when you look at all the comments, you're 100% right. It's comment after comment after comment of, you can't do it now. The Fed's doing this. It's BlackRock buying everything. It's the statistic is it's like 4% now of homes are owned by corporations. But what's the biggest complaint you hear? Corporations are buying all that stuff and it's keeping all the prices too high. You're just going to hear excuse after excuse after excuse, giving people that reason to do nothing. We need to hunt for the people who are taking action.
Alrighty, folks, it is January 1st, 2025. We got my boy Dion Talk Financial Freedom. And I want to have a real honest discussion. Some of this will undoubtedly be uncomfortable for some of you. Good. But I'm going to talk about 7 reasons why you're not rich. Now, in fairness, all 7 may not apply to you, but there's a very good chance that at least one or multiple of these will apply to you. So I've come up with this list. I've just brainstormed. I'm going to share it with Dion one at a time. We'll talk about them. And I want to really figure out, am I missing anything or am I wrong? As you know, Dion loves to be the contrarian, loves to tell me when I'm wrong. Dion, Happy New Year.
Well, we've been doing these videos now for like 4 years. I know that there's been at least once or twice where I was able to say, I think you're wrong.
Oh, at least, yeah, shoot. Yeah. A couple of times a month, maybe.
Exactly.
All right. So here's the thesis. We're at the beginning of the year. Lots of New Year's resolutions. Lots of people in our world want to change their financial future. They want it to be better. They see what you have, the lazy landlord. They see the freedom you have. You want to spend more time out of the country than in the country, handfuls of units. They want what you have. But what I have now realized in the thousands of people I have helped, mentored, coached, led, there's kind of 7 buckets of, I think I'll call them challenges or blind spots that people often fall into. I'm sure you see some similar traits, but I wanted to share this list with you because I know you'll help me improve it. You ready?
I am. I like the idea that you haven't shared what these are with me, because I have researched and done a few videos on, the top 5 reasons or the top 5 traits or those kind of things. So I've got kind of a mental list that I go off of when I meet somebody new and they're talking about finances. So I'm curious to see which ones made your list.
Awesome. Well, let's start with number 1. This, again, is in no particular order. This is just how it came to me in my conscious stream. Number 1 is an income problem. Some of us out there simply need to find a way to go make more money, whether that is learning new skills, trading employers, whatever it is. There are some of us out there who are living so close to the bone and paying the bills, but doesn't have that discretionary income and maybe doesn't have the ability to save. So for some of us out there, you just need to make more money. And in a world like today, it's not necessarily that hard. There are things you could do, skill up, whether it be technology or public speaking or whatnot, second job, even if you have to. There was a time in my life where I had 3 jobs. I had 3 different jobs, right? I had the 8 to 5 job, I had the 6 to 9 job, and I had the weekend job. There are times out there. So step number 1, I don't know how many people fall into it, but some do, is they just don't make enough money. What do you think, Dion?
I think I'm going to irritate some people.
I like it.
Sometimes the goal. I think the income problem is often a level of discomfort you're willing to put up with problem. And the example I'll use is I ran a CDL school for a decade, right? Well, for 13 years. But people can get into the trades. They can learn to do something physical with their hands, but they can have a long list of reasons why they can't. And so you hear people make the argument of minimum wage is not enough to live on. And being a Gen X, I have the response of, it's not supposed to be.
Yes, that's supposed to be.
It was supposed to be what a teenager could make in high school when they're not doing homework and they have those few hours a week, right? That's the idea for minimum wage. So learn a skill that pays more than minimum wage. And in almost every state, there is access to federal funds called WIOA, Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. If you qualify for any state benefits, so I had a friend who went in and he'd gotten laid off, and all he did is applied for food stamps, and he qualified for it. It was $16 a month. So how much food is that going to get you? Who knows? But it qualified him for the WIOA funds, so they paid for his CDL. Didn't cost him a penny. The average truck driving job starts off around $80,000 a year. So if you're making minimum wage and you're not thinking minimum wage probably qualifies you for some state benefit, which can get you, and that I use CDL because that's my background, but there's insulation jobs that start off at $30 an hour. People are like, I'm not going in a crawl space. Okay, you're going to make minimum wage. What are you willing to be uncomfortable with to make more money?
Love it. Love it. So on the opposite side of income problem, and let's be honest, this is what I suffered from. So again, I love throwing myself out there. I had a spending problem. I had like a seafood, there's that old joke about seafood, right? I see food, I eat it. I had a spending problem. Money came in, money went out. It was frankly how I was conditioned growing up, right? When you get the check, go spend it. It literally felt like water running through my hand. I just could never hold on to it. It never was a thing. I got to 31 or 32 years old, and saving wasn't a habit. So again, a lot of us need to own up. We have a freaking spending problem. And for us, that meant ultimately getting down to 50% of our income, which is quite a spending problem, right? Our needs were 50% of our income. So, getting there took time, right? Really owning what was a need versus a want. But lots of us today have a spending problem.
I think the spending problem largely comes from people not understanding that we make it easier to spend.
Yeah.
Right. The concept of currency is it takes time and energy to gather gold. So gold has value, but you can't carry it around. So we're going to make currency, but back it by gold. But there's not enough gold to back the currency. So we make fiat currency. And then we go, well, that's not really good enough. How about we do a debit card so you don't have to keep the cash on you? And then they go, well, debit card, that's spending your own money that's in your account. Why don't we make a credit card so you can borrow money to spend on this? And then people say, well, that's too much of a commitment. Let's do buy now, pay later. Like everything we've done as a society makes it easier and easier and easier to spend, to where people think my cards aren't maxed out. I have money to spend.
I have money. I have checks. I just that
right,
old joke.
Exactly.
Joke. All right, number 3. And again, there's lots of studies on this, but I think a lot of us just need to own up to the fact that we have an impulse problem, right? Maybe you're disciplined. Maybe you're doing something for a month, 3 months, 4 months. Maybe you've got a little money tucked away, and then the whatever, you have 1 week moment and you drop money on a trip, a purse, a shoe, a car, whatever, right? The delayed gratification gene or trait or skill, whatever you want to call it, it seems to be lacking. And, a lot of us can do it for a little while and then we get off. And, so I call that the impulse problem. I don't know if there's a better name for it, but that's number 3.
No, I think it's the impulse problem. And so there's been a subtle shift in it over the last probably 5 to 10 years. In the 90s and early 2000s, it was about a $2 billion a year industry to put something small and buyable at the checkout stands in stores. As you're standing in line, there's something you can grab. You're looking around, you're bored. If you don't grab something to buy, you might have to actually talk to the person close to you. So impulse would be to buy. Well, now, as you're scrolling through Facebook, look at every ad that pops up for some movie you've never heard of or never seen that somehow is only available on a streaming service you don't have. So impulse to see the show that you see on Facebook ends up with a streaming service that had that show and probably nothing else you're going to watch.
Yeah.
So the impulse spending is shifted to digital now, but it's still there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So number 4, I call it the friend problem. Maybe it's the network problem, but a lot of us, have a set of folks that are around us that we're very comfortable together. But if you're really looking to make a change or do something or go in a new direction, you're supposed to be uncomfortable. If you kind of stay in that same network, that same set, it's very unlikely that you're going to make that meaningful change. You need to disrupt that. You need to go seek out new friends. If you want to get healthy, go find healthy friends. You want to get rich, go find rich friends. You want to go learn a new language, get around people that speak that new language. It is so obvious to me that one of the biggest failures most people have is they're not willing to get in a new community that is already doing the thing that they want to do. That's number 4.
Yeah, the friends thing, my live stream last night was on the true cost of financial freedom. So I do an intro before the questions, right? And the intro is on the true cost. And there's the cost of the time, energy, and effort to get it going, the 5 years that are terrible, the actual cost to invest. But the real cost of financial freedom is you become an outsider. Mm-hmm. So once you're retired and you're not working anymore, we're kind of on the outside. People, it's hard to relate to us. But when you're on the path to financial freedom, you become an outsider to your friends and family. The people who have an addiction to anything, whether it's gambling, drugs, drinking, or whatever, and you're trying to end that addiction, there will be friction. Well, people have an addiction to working. People have an addiction to, you have to sell your life 1 hour at a time. And if you're trying to end that, you become an outsider. And our friends, even with good intention, if you don't sprinkle in the friends that are on the path, and I want to make a video with you sometime this next couple of weeks. How many people do you know who retired early if you take YouTube out of the equation? Everyone that you met through this network. Okay. And I went through my mental list, and it's not a very big one, of people who reached financial freedom. And those are the friends we're surrounded with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, folks, a lot. One of the things that I think, again, I will be known for in the very near future, if not already, is our school community. It is the most positive place. It is 357 people going one direction, all there to go. We now have 6, masterminds or accountability calls. We're starting up one on Friday for out-of-state investing. We're only looking for one more person. One more person wanting to do short-term and medium-term rentals. Let's get that group going. But yeah, I think it's perfectly priced. 67 cents a day keeps away the haters and the trolls, but is so cheap that anybody should be able to afford it. So I'm really proud of what we're doing there. And frankly, thank you for being a part of that. All right. Number 5, I'll go with timing expectations. I think a lot of folks have been conditioned that financial freedom should come quickly. It frankly should be easy. It shouldn't be a struggle. Maybe people think it should, I can't tell you how many people said, oh, I want to earn financial freedom in a year or 2 or 3. And they think 3 is a long time. I'm like, folks, it's a decade, right? It's a decade. So I think a lot of people have a timing problem.
So I think there's a couple layers to it. The timing thing, wanting it faster, saying you can't do it today because you want to make a purchase today that has a massive impact to your finances. And that's not what happened at any point in our investing. We made investments that made a small change that over years became a massive impact, and add to the timing of it. Yeah, it's a decade. So people want it, if they're starting today, if you're starting, you found this video today, this is the One Rental at a Time community, welcome. Mm-hmm. You were in the graduating class of 2035.
Exactly.
I started using that sentence in 22. So there are people that have been watching that are in the graduating class of 2032. Yep. And so they're 3 years into this now. But if you're starting today, it's a decade. So let's add to the timing. Don't time the market.
Yeah.
How many videos go on when will rates come down? When will prices come down? When will wages catch up? When will rents catch up? None of that tells me when to buy.
Yeah, love that. All right, we've got 2 more. The next one I call an ownership problem. And again, I don't know if ownership is the right word, but I know there is a lot of people that come into my network and they want this, but all they want to do is blame other people for other things. It's the government. It's my boss. It's my significant other. It's my parents. It's my. And I'm like, so first off, anytime you give somebody else that power, you have nothing to change. Right? You've got to own everything. There's a great book. It's one of the books on my, What Made Me Rich section of onerentalatatime.com. Extreme ownership. You just own it all, and then you could change it. You can make a difference. So I don't know if ownership problem is the right answer, but I see a lot of people want to blame others for not being rich.
So I'm trying to answer all of these, but again, you're revealing them, and I'm going, here's my reaction to it. And every comment so far have been to try to help the audience. This one, I'm going to try to help you.
Okay.
So negative bias is, and I use this when I was teaching the managers at the truck driving school, train people to be managers for each campus, right? We never hired outside managers. One of the things you have to teach is, if you go and you give an hour presentation, you've done it many times. You've gone to high schools, you've done all these videos, you've done all these helping people learn a skill that they need. You speak for an hour, but there was one moment, 43 minutes in, you lost your train of thought, you didn't say it in the order you wanted to, and you stumbled for about 30 seconds. For 3 weeks, you had a 1 hour presentation with 59 and a half minutes of awesome, 30 seconds where you screwed up. You're going to think of the 30 seconds for the next 3 weeks,
Sure.
not the 59 minutes of awesome. That's just human nature. So when we're here on YouTube and we're at the One Rental at a Time event coming up in February, and we're helping people get on the path, we need to understand that the very limited people, the small amount of people, the Franks, the Michelles, the Daves, the Josh and Marys, the Mikeys, the people who took the information and are making changes.
Mm-hmm.
That's our 30 seconds that we need to focus on. Because when you look at all the comments, you're 100% right. It's comment after comment after comment of, you can't do it now. The Fed's doing this. It's BlackRock buying everything. It's the statistic is it's like 4% now of homes are owned by corporations. But what's the biggest complaint you hear? Corporations are buying all that stuff and it's keeping all the prices too high. You're just going to hear excuse after excuse after excuse, giving people that reason to do nothing. We need to hunt for the people who are taking action.
Like it. And then the seventh one, and I put it seventh on purpose, because after all of those 6, there is actually a knowledge problem, right? There are some things about getting rich that you just need to understand. They're not taught in school. They're likely not taught by your parents. They're likely not taught by your network. So when I think about all of the other ones, then there is the 7th, like, okay, what don't you know, right? What have all the millionaires on this channel done that maybe inspire you or help you to do that next thing? So the number 7th on purpose is there is a knowledge problem or a knowledge gap.
So there's a knowledge problem, and I think 2 levels to it. The first one is, this is a meme, of course. People used to say lack of access to information is why people seem unintelligent. The internet has proven that wrong. That there's access to the information. The problem is, how do you filter through to the good information? When the business of growing a YouTube channel by selling fear, by sharing uncertainty and doubt, right? Get that FUD out there and your channel will grow. There's a lot more successful YouTube channels that get more views, that are screaming how the crash is coming, that are screaming how it's impossible to do now. And I can actually, in another video, in like 5 minutes, prove that it is easier to buy a house today than it was in 2000. Mm-hmm. But that video is going to get 300 views. The video that says it's so hard to buy a house right now will get 3 million views.
Yeah. Yeah, it is really interesting to think about. So again, I'm not saying this is a complete list. Again, one of the reasons by doing this with someone you know, trust, and respect is sometimes you get additional ones. So that was my list of 7 challenges or excuses or gaps or problems for folks not getting rich. I know you've done a lot of this. Does anything jump out you that I maybe should add or maybe I missed?
No, I think it's a pretty good list. I think people should do what I did and watch this video again and write down the 7, have a list of it, and then prioritize which one do you think is impacting you the most and focus on that.
I love that. So I'll run through the list of 7 again. I think that's a great action item. These 7, again, were in no particular order. I'll go through them again. And then I think you're right. I think you have to rank them because some of these will not apply to you. Some of them will really apply to you. And then that will help you. And you know what I'll do at the end of this? I'll actually be honest with myself and try to go through my top 2 or 3 if I think back to the beginning. So here they are in no particular order. Income problem, spending problem, friend or network problem, impulse problem, ownership problem, timing or expectation problem, and finally, knowledge problem. So when I look at all of these, if I go back to day one, day zero, spending problem was my number one. Friend or network problem was number two. And I'll go with impulse problem was number three. Those were my top three if I go back to the very beginning.
So I think the one that's missing for me, that would be the top, that was the reason why I worked for 40 years without saving a penny towards retirement or investing, is I had a goal problem.
Ooh, there you go.
So we're on the path to financial freedom, or we're financially free. We have the goal of doing this, but there are so many people who probably aren't watching videos like this that have the goal problem of, for the first 40 years, I want to be a good spouse. I want to be a good parent. I want to be a good employee. While those things can be helped by investing, none of them will direct my actions towards investing. And once you can invest to where you're not in survival mode, just working paycheck to paycheck, you can actually then focus on the things of being a good spouse, being a good parent, being a good employee, right up to the day when you turn in your notice and walk away and never go back. But so if you're watching this, you probably have the right goals or working on the right goals. But how many people do we know bring up the conversation of money and they've never even thought of it? So they don't have the goals at all.
Yeah, let me ask you on that. I love the goal problem, but could it be twisted into it's a comfort problem? I think a lot of people are just comfortable. And if you're comfortable, right, why change? Change is hard. Change is uncomfortable. Change is painful. So maybe you were comfortable, or is it really a goal problem?
If everything that you're living today, you accepted over the last 5 years.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And so I think for the first 40 years, I was okay with that.
Yeah. I think you were.
I was just going to work forever.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I've told you many times. I remember my father telling me as a teenager that he was going to die at work, and most importantly, being impressed by that. It's like, oh, he's doing it for the family. That's just stupid thinking. So yeah, I think if you're comfortable, you're not going to make a change, right? I don't know a lot of people who are comfortable that are eager to make changes. So that's very cool. But Dion, you are a big part of the channel. You're going to be in Vegas, right?
Yes. Going to be there a week before. And so Wednesday and Thursday, we're having the Midnight Denny's meetups. And
I love that you do that. I won't be there. I will be sound asleep.
That's okay as we get closer. Well, that's because, so last night was New Year's, and you said you didn't stay up till midnight, but you get up at 5:30. Well, I gamed until 3 o'clock. So this is what my face looks like when I've gotten 2 hours of sleep.
I see a nap in your future.
There is a nap in my future. Yes, there's definitely a nap before I game tonight.
There you go. Of course. Why not?
Exactly.
There you go. Well, where can people find you?
They can find me right here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom.
Yeah, you're amazing. Thanks again.